Hey, Andre, did you know history is being made?
Every day, right?
Well, here today with the Tesla Roadster. Did you know that there is one for sale that the seller is claiming it's the lowest mileage Tesla in the world? Roadster, that is.
On Earth.
Well, they said on Earth, yeah, because I guess the one that went into space may
May have fewer miles.
So in this video, we're going to give you all the details of this very unique car that can be yours should you want the original Tesla Roadster with how many miles?
38 miles. It's a piece of history, like you said.
So I guess it's a dealer in Phoenix called Gruber Motors.
Yeah.
And they are selling this 2010, I believe, Tesla Roadster that was sort of a barn find out of New Mexico.
Yeah, so the story is quite interesting. I mean, so part of the story has to do with the fact that Tesla would test drive cars before they deliver them.
Yep.
And they would put 30 miles on the clock of the car, which means the owner of this car drove it 8 miles.
Yeah, but there's a problem, which we'll tell you at the end. But before we tell you that, let's kind of talk about the history of Tesla and the history of the Roadster and kind of why these cars are becoming extremely collectible. Now, if I recall, they only built under 2,000 of them, so there's not a lot of these actually in the world. Maybe like 1,800 of those were sold, and they started out life as a Lotus that then Tesla basically built the drivetrain for.
Yeah, Lotus Elise or chassis similar to that, right?
Lotus
Which is very lightweight.
Built and engineered the chassis, not the chassis, the kind of the structure of
The
it.
body of it,
The body
yes.
of it, yeah.
Which is very lightweight to begin with. And then, of course, Tesla added its powertrain, battery, electric motor. And, you know, there are 3 elements to being a collectible vehicle. 2 doors help.
Yep.
Topless
Helps.
helps.
Yeah.
Fast
Helps.
helps.
Rare helps a lot more.
Yeah, so 4. four items you have to be a very desirable car.
So Nathan and I actually got to test drive one of these because
remember.
Tesla had a store here in Boulder. And when Tesla came to Boulder, the state of Colorado offered anybody who bought a Tesla a $50,000 tax credit if they bought it before the end of the year. And I believe the store opened sometime up in like November or October. And if you bought one, you'd actually get $50,000 back from the state of Colorado. That was an incentive to help open up the store in Boulder or in Colorado, and then you'd also get the $7,500 federal tax credit,
Which was a huge incentive.
And the
Yes.
car was about $150,000, so it wasn't cheap.
Right. Well, Tesla was a new company then.
Yes.
I mean, this was their first car. And I'm just looking through some pictures, Roman. There is not a speck of dust in this car. No. This car, I don't know how it was stored, if it was cleaned, but it's immaculate.
Well, I figure if it was in a barn, it'd be all like
Gooey and
it's
got
covered
rat
in, yes,
stuff.
yes, exactly. But apparently this one was either well taken care of or it was cleaned by the dealer. Now let's talk about values of these. In this ad, they're saying that bids are starting at $100,000. And I remember when you could get a Tesla Roadster. In fact, I knew a friend of mine who had one who was trying to sell it for $60,000. And this wasn't that long ago. I'm talking about maybe like 5-6 years ago. Mm-hmm. But because, of course, Tesla has become such a successful company, kind of buying the fountainhead, right? The very first one is something that a lot of, especially Tesla fans, want. Now, keep in mind, of course, that Mr. Musk did not start the company. He bought the company.
Yeah, not many people understand this or know this.
Yeah. That's a little interesting bit of trivia.
But of course, he ran with it.
Yeah. So I remember when he ran with it. I remember when Nathan and I test drove it. They lent it to us, and we actually drove it up to Estes Park. And it was, like I say, in the fall. And
it was snowing, wasn't it?
It was snowing, and the car was very quick, very powerful for a very light car on summer tires. And so I remember we drove the peak-to-peak highway, terrified. There's some video of that, actually. Maybe we can show that.
Yeah.
Terrified that we were going to, smash one of the few Tesla Roadsters.
In existence,
off the side of a mountain. And it was pretty funny because putting Nathan and myself in a Tesla Roadster at our advanced age of girth does not make for a spacious interior. Now, this one seems to be in really good shape. What is it saying it has?
Well, so a couple of items. First of all, you talked about power. It's listed at 3.9 seconds 0 to 60, and I think we confirmed that basically.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very fast.
Yep.
It has a 12-volt battery relocation kit. Not quite sure
what
that means. But of course, all these cars have, or until the Cybertruck came along, had a 12-volt system, LED headlamps, infotainment system. But the infotainment system, I was looking at it, looks a little bit like afterthought, right?
Yeah, there was no Apple CarPlay. there was certainly a little bit of kit car
feeling to it.
Feeling to it. But there are companies. There's especially a company that is keeping these cars on the road because you can't really get parts for it. Now, last time I was at the Tesla store here in Colorado, I asked them, "Do you ever get these in trade?" And they said, "Yes, they do." And then I said, "Well, what do you do with them?" And they said they break them down for parts. Now, there is also this interesting myth that people here. I'm full of trivia today, Andre.
Okay, go ahead.
Here's some urban myth that people always say, but it's completely wrong. And the urban myth is that when you build a car, in other words, when a car company builds a car, they have to provide product support for that car for 10 years. No such law exists. So, in other words, the urban myth or the belief is that if you're a car company and you build a Roadster, you actually have to provide the parts for that for up to 10 years.
Yeah. But manufacturers like, all the big manufacturers, Toyota, Ford, GM, I mean, they just do a lot of that anyways, right?
Or the aftermarket.
Yes.
Yeah, and so let's say you have a 10-year powertrain warranty. Then, of course, you have to provide those parts for, the Koreans do that. Then you have to have parts for the length of the warranty. But there's this, like I said, urban myth that it has to be 10 years. No such thing. I'm looking over at what you're doing, and you're kind of looking at other Teslas that they've got for sale. The Gruber Motors in Phoenix
at
has
this
for sale.
particular place. Yeah, they have another 2010 with 182 miles, which is also ultra low mile car. And this one is actually located in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
How much are they asking? Is there a price?
Yes.
How much?
Do you want to know?
Oh, God. I'm going to say at least $200,000 because they've really gone up in price.
$299,500.
Yeah.
So basically $300,000.
Yeah. How about the other two? How much are they?
So there's another one with 23,000 miles in green, looks like a custom color, 115,000. There's another one with a custom paint job with 58,000 miles. Oh my goodness, for $100,000.
So, like I said, prices are going up now. You may be wondering what it was like to drive. And you said it, when we drove it, it was as close to a Lotus Elise as you could get. Now, think of a Lotus Elise as having very light, very responsive, very nimble, dare I say, very nervous. What surprised me on that video that we did was we drove it up to Estes Park, and we were trying to figure out if we could regen as much power coming back down from Estes Park. So basically, we drove it up the mountain and drove it back down the mountain. And surprisingly, even back then, the regen on this car was pretty phenomenal. Do you remember the range on this? I think it was around 200 miles, if I recall. I could be wrong about that, so feel free to correct me in the comments.
Yeah, so some of these cars are actually listed at 85% charge at about 180 miles.
Yeah.
So, by the way, battery degrades over time, right? So you may not have, of course, perfect range with a used electric car as you would if it was new.
Yeah. So at the beginning of this video, I said that there's a rub, Andre.
There's a problem.
All right, here, go ahead. I'm about to hit the little trombone. So tell them what the problem is.
The problem is that this car is bricked.
I like playing with my new mixer.
You have a mixer?
I do, yeah.
It's bricked, and range on it says 0.
I figure if it's sat for that long, the battery probably is not going to survive.
So there's no screen, there's no gauge cluster picture. I think is because the car is not powering up, basically. So $100,000 starting bid for a car that is bricked.
Yeah, and getting batteries for it might be a little tricky as well, unless you buy one of the other ones and then swap batteries every time you want to drive one. Here's the question for you. This is the question, the $1 million question here. How much do you think it's worth, and will prices continue to go up? Because let's face it, like if you think about famous first cars, Ford, of course, had the Model T, and those are worth about $10,000 to $15,000. But of course, they made millions of those.
Yeah, they did.
So that's a whole different. Actually, the Model T wasn't the first Ford. There were previous models, right? I think he went through the alphabet twice before he got to the T. Seriously.
Yeah.
But how much and how expensive do you think the road? It really kind of has to ride the wave of Tesla. If Tesla does well and people love Tesla, then the value of that car is going to be expensive.
Like a stock price.
Right, but then of course it also is intertwined with whatever Mr. Musk does.
Yeah.
And recently he's been creating a lot of hate.
Yeah, and apparently currently they're up. or at least on the way up.
On the
or
way
maybe, so I would say this particular one, this car in white that we're talking about, that's with a brick battery. You know what this would be good for? And I'm stalling here because I don't know what the price
office
should
furniture.
Yes. No, I was not thinking about office furniture. I was thinking my yacht furniture.
Okay.
So I can just lift it, put it on my yacht,
And just have it there.
and just have it as a conversation piece.
Or run, if you get the battery, you can have a runabout when you come into port. Of course, there are issues. It doesn't charge very quickly, if I recall.
Yeah.
I don't think it had fast charging. And then I think this one, if I remember right, is like number 500 and something, right?
592.
592?
It looks here. Yeah.
And if I also recall right, and if I didn't, please correct me in the comments. I believe that Lotus did build the body basically, and then shipped it here, and then Tesla added the running gear to it. And I loved the car. I thought it was cool. I thought at that time when I drove it with Nathan that this thing is going to be the greatest thing ever, or it's going to flop. And it seems like it's been the greatest thing ever for a lot of people.
Well, it launched the company, really.
It launched the company.
And other companies have come along, like Rivian, Lucid, and others. And usually the first car that, for example, Lucid did is also not very cheap.
Yeah.
It's very, very expensive, right? The Lucid Air. And this was Tesla's first vehicle to kind of fund the company, right?
Yeah, and it's also, it's funny because the Tesla Roadster, Andre, is also kind of tells the story of two Teslas, right? There's a very innovative Tesla that built this, and then you think about the new Roadster that was unveiled, and actually, people put $250,000 down on it.
Yes.
It also tells a story of the other Tesla where they maybe overpromise and underdeliver, because that Roadster
It still doesn't exist.
doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But if you can't get the one in space, this
one.
Yeah, Gruber Motors in Phoenix. Good luck. I'll be curious to see what it sells for if they announce it. As always, guys, if you want to see more of what's happening in the automotive world, where should they go, Andre?
alltfl.com for all the latest automotive news.
People are clapping.
Oh, how do you know they're clapping?
Because it says applause. I
Okay,
hit the applause button.
Great.
All right. Here. Rim shot.
Sounds good. Thank you.
See you guys next time. Ciao.